Good morning, happy Friday, and welcome to Sick Call. This week we have with us Major Eric Turner. Major Turner is an orthopedic surgeon in the U.S. Army on active duty. Welcome, sir, and we're excited to have you with us this week.
Thank you for the invitation. Really excited to be here.
And we also have with us Sergeant First Class Scott Christensen. Sergeant Christensen is a new member to our physician recruiting team in Los Angeles Company and Culver City. Good morning, Sergeant Christensen, and welcome to the team.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here.
And of course, we have our team here at the Valencia Medical Recruiting Station, Phillips.
Good morning.
Staff Sergeant Scott McMenemy.
Good morning.
And myself, Sergeant First Class Michael Cube.
So first off, sir, I'd like to say good morning again. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Michigan. I went to Wayne State University, studied biology there. That's where I met my wife. I was no prior service, so I took a 4-year HPSP scholarship when I got accepted to medical school to Loma Linda. I then did my residency with the Army at Madigan Army Medical Center. I finished that in 2017, and I stayed here as a staff surgeon at Madigan after I graduated, where we train residents and take care of active duty soldiers and dependents. And I have 2 kids with 1 more on the way.
Oh, congratulations, sir. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, sir, would you tell us a little bit about your decision to become an Army doctor?
Yeah, for me, it was actually a fairly easy decision. My brother is a few years older than me. He's active duty infantry. He was here at Fort Lewis with the Ranger Battalion when I was going through undergrad, and basically saw the pride that he had in the job that he did, and the pride that my family had in it. So I knew I always wanted to do something with the military. I didn't do ROTC because I played athletics in undergrad, and so that kind of took my time, so I couldn't do ROTC. And so when I got accepted to med school and needed to find a way to pay for it, I found out I could do both things I wanted, to be a surgeon as well as serve my country. So it was honestly a very easy decision for me. It was best of both worlds.
So, sir, with having a family in the military, how does your Army life fit in with your family life?
I think in general, Army life is very conducive to have a happy family and wife and kids. There certainly are some challenges, particularly deployments. I was deployed summer of 18 for about 5 months, which is challenging. It's hard when you have a couple of small kids at home to leave them. But, the Army does a good job supporting you, and we have family that can support us. And so it's doable. But apart from the deployments, I think that our schedule and the time that we have for families is awesome. It's been a real blessing.
Very cool. So, sir, you mentioned the deployment, just so that our viewers are aware, because we know that you don't typically deploy during your education track, but your deployment, when exactly did it take place for you?
So I graduated residency in 2017. I then deployed summer of 2018. In general, you deploy probably within your first 1 to 2 years out from training. And so I deployed with what's called an FST, which is a forward surgical team. It's a fully manned surgical team that's trained to operate in an austere environment. We were in Afghanistan, where we took on about 200 casualties, did about 25 or 30 surgeries while we were there.
Awesome. So obviously you were very busy during that time. How does that compare with your time now at the hospital? So a lot of things are the same, but a lot of things are very different. So the principles of orthopedics and how we're trained is all the same as far as the surgeries we do, external fixators, fasciotomies, amputations. But training on the state side never really prepares you for the injuries that you see in the deployed setting, particularly blast injuries. You see a lot of car accidents on state side, maybe some gunshot wounds. And so the first few traumas you get, it's a very different injury, having a blast mechanism. But the Army has you fully trained to execute the surgery you need to do if you stick with the principles. But it is somewhat of a challenge when you first see these injuries.
Sir, what were the rounds or summer rotations like for you during your medical school?
I think that's a good question.
your summer rotations, particularly if your third year going into your fourth year, are very important for what residency you're going to do after medical school. So in the Army, we have basically 2 months where the Army will pay you to do your active duty training, ADT. And so you go, you find out which program you want, which hospitals you're interested in. I went to San Antonio for 4 weeks. Then I came here to Madigan at Fort Lewis for 4 weeks. And it's essentially a 4-week interview. You work with the residents, you work with the staff, you get a feel for the program, they get a feel for you. You have an interview at the end, but really you've been interviewing the entire time. And it really gets you a good sense of what program might be the best fit for you.
Awesome. So when you went to these trainings and everything, the Army fully funded it, and how is that different from the civilian side?
Very different. So it's very beneficial on the military side. So it's fully funded. You're actually, you get a stipend while you're in medical school, but when you're on these active duty training, your pay actually goes up because you're paid as a active duty lieutenant. They will pay for your flight. You'll get active duty pay. You'll get, I think, even per diem while you're there. Our counterparts on the civilian side have to go to far more interviews, far more flights to pay for, and it ends up being quite a bit more expensive on the civilian side. So that, in my opinion, is one of the benefits of the military: less interviews and more money in your pocket.
I like that.
Hey, sir, what about, we have a lot of viewers that go through the civilian match process. What was the military match process like for you?
I think it's a lot simpler, a lot more straightforward. It's definitely stressful. It's challenging to get into some fields, particularly orthopedics, similarly on the civilian side. But there's less programs. There's less interviews that you have to do. It's really just your 2 rotations. The interview season is earlier. So by mid-October, you know where you're going to go after medical school. And then you have essentially the rest of your 4th year, which is some of the best years in your training because of the amount of free time you have. And you don't have to fly to nearly as many programs and spend as much time away from home on those interviews.
So, sir, what would you say is your favorite thing about being an Army surgeon?
Well, I think it's honestly I can't ask for a more gratifying job. You get to be not only a surgeon and everything that comes with that, but you get to take care of, in my opinion, our country's greatest assets, the active duty soldiers. Get to take care of them, getting them back to duty, ready to deploy, then also taking care of them in a far forward setting when they are injured and deployed. There's really nothing more gratifying that I could see as far as a career.
Very cool. Yeah, we definitely appreciate that from you, sir.
Yeah.
How do fellowships work for officers, surgeons like yourself within the Army?
So you have the option for orthopedics in general. The vast majority of graduating residents will do a fellowship. It's in the high 90%, I think now. Most of the time, they'll do that directly out of residency. In the military, you have the option. You can do it directly out of residency. The vast majority of those trainings will be civilian. The thing to keep in mind is that we'll add 2 years to your commitment. So depending on how many years you owe, you will want to factor that in. Oftentimes, what's one of the cool things and unique things with the Army is if we only owe 4 years, a lot of us will just wait and do that fellowship after our 4-year commitment is over. So it's really cool to be a general orthopedic surgeon, do a lot of sports, trauma, hand surgery. You get to do the full gamut of bread and butter general orthopedics before you do the fellowship. And I think by the time you're done with that, having that 4 years of experience, then do the fellowship, really makes for just outstanding surgeons coming out of the Army.
Awesome. So there's no commitment essentially for doing it that way, or an extra commitment obligation to the Army for doing it that way, which is your plan, correct, sir?
That's my plan. I'm doing my 4 years as an Army general orthopedic surgeon. My commitment ends summer of 21. Then I'm free to do what I want, and I'll do my fellowship after. Won't add any more time commitment. So for me, it worked out really well.
Awesome. And of course, we have the Army Reserves as an option for you.
Right.
So that's
right.
always there. And that's why we have Sergeant Christensen with us this morning, because his team handles the physician recruitment for our company. So Sergeant Christensen, you want to kind of take a few minutes for your team here?
Yeah, sure thing. So we're actively seeking board-certified physicians of all specialties to join the Army. Our team's ready and happy to answer any questions about the requirements and the incentives like the Health Profession Loan Repayment Program that's up to $250,000. And we're always looking for highly skilled surgeons like Mr. Turner here to provide world-class care for our soldiers. Feel free to comment in the sections below, or if you see on the screen, there's a way to get a hold of us, and we'd love to help you out.
Awesome. So with that said, sir, I think we have one more, or time for one more question from you. If there's anything you could impart upon our viewers about your process, or the one thing you wish you would have known going into the process to become a surgeon, an Army doc, what would that be?
Well, I wish I would have knew how much mandatory online training there is, because I definitely never would have joined the Army. Just kidding. So what I wish I knew coming out, and it wouldn't have changed my mind, but I guess I didn't realize that your decision coming out of medical school to do residency, I was under the assumption you could do either civilian or military, and it was completely your decision. For me, in particular in orthopedics, it's not necessarily that way. If the Army can train enough orthopedic surgeons through their residencies, then they won't offer civilian deferments, meaning you basically have to do it with the Army. That's different for different residencies. Some do a lot of civilian deferments, so that would be something that students would have to look into. What I will say is, although that might seem like a limitation, the Army will provide you with terrific residency training. I think we train excellent surgeons, and I couldn't have got any better training at any civilian program, in my opinion.
Awesome.
That's awesome, sir. So we'd like to thank you, sir, for taking your time out today from your schedule to visit with us today.
Not a problem. Happy to come back.
Awesome.
And then thank you, Sergeant First Class Christian, for your time as well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And this will wrap up our show for today. Thank you to our viewers for tuning with us live. As always, we welcome your questions. You can comment below or on any of our other social media platforms. We hope everyone has a happy, healthy, and safe weekend, and we look forward to seeing you again next Friday at 10 a.m. here on Sick Call.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.